I'm going to read the allegations and then you'll enter your plea. You're accused of violating the conditions of your parole, specifically condition number 1, which says you failed to report as instructed upon release from the Avoyelles Parish Jail on May 5th, 2023. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Okay, then condition number 2, you failed to submit a report for the months of April and May 2023. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
Okay. Then condition number 3, it says you left the state of Louisiana without written permission from your parole officer. This allegation is evidenced by an incident report provided by the Beaumont Police Department in Beaumont, Texas, dated May 21st, 2023, in which you were identified as being present on scene at the time of the officer's arrival. How do you plead to violating condition number 3?
Not guilty.
Okay. And lastly, condition number 4, you were involved in criminal activity May 21st, 2023 by committing the offense of assault and criminal mischief. This allegation is evidenced by an incident report provided by the Beaumont Police Department dated May 21st, 2023. How do you plead to?
Not guilty.
Would you answer Mr. Freeman's questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Austin, did you go to Texas when you were released?
No, sir.
Okay, well, how did they get this incident report on you?
I had told my PO I was messing with a female and she was mad because I ain't want to mess with her. And she just called my PO and lied and said I was in Texas. Cause like, I told my PO, I'm like, if I would have caught some charges in Texas by me being on parole, they would have held me in Texas because they would have typed my name in the computer and saw I was on parole, and they would have held me down there and extradited me to, back to Louisiana.
Okay. So the officer that did the incident report and said that it was you in Texas, man, how do you explain that?
I'm saying, so if I would have caught, if I was in Texas, if I would have caught some charges in Texas.
I didn't say he charged you now. He just said you were there and that.
No, sir. No, sir.
They didn't arrest you. They just gave you a summons, I think it was.
No, sir.
So you saying
I wasn't in Texas.
Okay. And Lisa, that's your ex-girlfriend?
Yes, sir.
Y'all didn't have an argument?
No, sir.
Okay, you didn't kick any door or break her phone?
No, sir. She was just mad because I ain't want to mess with her no more. And she just lied and called my PO, lied to him about all type of stuff. And she told me, she like, I'm about to put you back in jail.
Okay, what about reporting? Why you didn't report when you were released?
That's the only thing I'm guilty about. Not on, reporting to my PO in 72 hours. That's the only thing I'm guilty for. I ain't really had no transportation. But I still could have contacted him though. But that was my fault right there. Not contacting my PO within 72 hours.
If you were released today, where would you go?
To my mama's house.
Where your mama lives?
In Opelousas.
Is she on the call today to verify you would go there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I got my PO number, my PO name, Glenn Stevens. I got his number now. My mama got his number.
Is she on? Okay, well,
And
not on the phone. We were trying to, I'd like to have heard from her. I have no further questions. We'll be making executive session.
I'm just second. We have a motion for executive session and second, and there is no objection. So, Mr. Austin will be in executive session for just a few moments to discuss confidential matters. Stand by. We'll be right back with you.
Thank you.
Well, I guess
Oh, they're just making a decision? Okay.
I guess they're checking to see what the
Watch out. We'll get you going.
what the parole officer has to say. Maybe that's what they're checking. I don't know. You know, we see over and over and over again where there is a situation that the woman feels scorned for whatever reason and reports them as a retaliatory action to the parole officer. We see it over and over again. This is actually the case where it's not like a DV thing and where she's recanting. It's becoming more of a it seems like you might even call it a pandemic, because there's no repercussion for when the scorned partner does this. There's just nothing. They get away with it. And that needs to be changed. Now, whether or not he's making it up, you know, to call the parole officer and say he's in Texas, it just seems kind of random. You know, kind of believe that he was probably there, but how is that evidence anyways? How can you just take, because a girlfriend calls and says he's in Texas, that means he's in Texas?
Okay, Mr. Austin, we're back. I don't want to revoke your parole today, but I also don't want to just turn you loose to your mother. Would you go to work release if I ordered work release?
Man, I had a job on standby. I was supposed to go work offshore and everything, you know what I'm saying? I got me a job with my uncle on standby as soon as I go home. So you know, so I got income, you know, to pay my PO every month, you know what I'm saying? Cause at the time I ain't really have enough time to really to get no job, cause I ain't really stay out there for too long. I stayed home for like 35 days. But that was my fault for not reporting to him in 72 hours. That's the only thing I'm guilty for. And then the part, you know, you say March 31st, I ain't never get released in March 31st. I had got transferred to Avoyage Parish because I had to detain him. I had to bond out. I ain't never go home on 31st. You know, I went home May 5th.
All right, I still would really like to see you go to work release, Mr. Austin. I mean, I know you got a job out there, but they'll give you a job at work release and you'd be able to save some money and take care of yourself once you got out. So my vote today is going to be do not revoke and order you to the work release for 6 months.
Jack. My vote is the same, Mr. Thompson. And I also agree, my vote is do not revoke and require 6 months participation in the work release program. That's going to benefit you, Mr. Austin. Good luck to you. I think that concludes our business at Bayou Correctional Center. Thank you so much for accommodating us. We're going to sign off at 8:27.
Yo, 10
Thank
years in
you.
jail, man.
So we're gonna actually jump in here and go to his next hearing, which takes place 9/26. So this hearing took place on 7/31. We're gonna fast forward to 9/26. Yes, I know if you're looking at the glasses, I do not have contacts. These are non-prescription. I've been dealing with like a pink eye actually, and my eyes have just been bothering me from all the computer screens. So I went out and got these. So I don't know. It's a new look, but I probably won't keep it. Anyways, let's jump forward. Hi to this one.
Grandma's
Why am I wearing grandma's glasses? I think that's our answer. It looks like grandma's glasses. I don't. Yes. Did you guys hear that? That's actually hilarious. Okay. Let's jump in. Why am I wearing grandma's glasses? Maybe I should put on a different set. Okay, let's jump in.
All right, is Mr. Austin there? Are they bringing, I can't see, I think I'm seeing part of a computer or something.
Yes, ma'am, we're bringing him into the room.
Okay, good.
Unbelievably, I happen to represent Mr. Austin in of Walls Parish. It's a small world, but he's on this page, and I'm going to go ahead and sit with him since I am his attorney.
Well, good. How about that?
He has business there this afternoon. I'm
No, avoid. See the appetite.
Wait, that makes, what is it? This is for the it's a parole medication, but I'm maybe over this.
Okay. Mr. Austin, good morning.
Good morning.
Sir, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Montel Austin, DOC number 703-904.
And Mr. Austin, you have attorney counsel. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Alan Smith, Your Honor. Y'all have my credentials and name and address from that earlier hearing.
We did. Thank you. So, Mr. Austin, you're familiar with the process. You've been through this before, so we'll just jump right in. I'm going to read the allegations, and your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. She'll take the lead on the interview.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Austin, you're accused of violating conditions of your parole, specifically condition number 13, which was a special condition. At your revocation hearing on July 26, 2023, the board ordered you to complete the transitional work program for 6 months in lieu of revocation. You failed to comply with the orders of the parole board in that you did not satisfactorily complete the program, as you were negatively discharged for an aggravated work offense on August 23rd, 2023. How do you plead to violating condition number 13?
Not guilty.
Not guilty? Okay. Would you answer Mrs. Jackson, please?
All right, Mr. Austin, you were scheduled to be for a revocation hearing on July 26th. The board listened to the circumstances of your case, and instead of revoking you, they ordered you to complete 6 months in a transitional work release program, and you got removed from the program on August 23rd for an aggravated work offense. So what happened?
It was like the job that they give me. It's like they don't want to let me, communicate, with nobody. It's like, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, communicate, nobody like who?
No, I'm talking about like my co-workers, like workers, people that be coming buy stuff out the store.
Well, I mean, were those people in the work release program or were they just customers?
Customers, but like, you know, the
What
people,
were the rules? What were you told? What were the rules?
you know, the rules, like, you know, saying like, I can't, you know, communicate, you know, with nobody, but I got workers that work with me that talk to people, but they don't tell them nothing. But soon as I start working, they want to be all on my back, telling me stuff. Oh, this what you can't do, this what you can't do, this what you can't do. But not to say it like that, but I used to want to say it like that, but they used to be all on my back. I used to be like, sir, they got other workers that work here just like me. Why is you all on my back? Like, you know, every time I go to the bathroom, he always on my back when I go to the bathroom. I'm like, man, you know, I can't do that. So I told my boss man, I'm like, not to be ugly, but I can't work like this. Can you give me another job? And he said, you know, we gonna work on it, but I guess he ain't gonna work on it. So I guess they had to fire me from their job, and they was gonna work on getting me another job, but I guess they ain't do it.
Well, what was the specific thing that you did to get an aggravated work offense? Tell us the specific thing that happened on August 23rd that got you removed.
Oh, really, I ain't really do nothing. You know what I'm saying? You know, it really shocked me when the man called me to his office and said I was fired. You know, it really shocked me because I ain't really do nothing that day. But he was telling me he was firing me because I went to the front of the building, and you ain't supposed to be in the front. After I fixed me a drink, I had fixed me a drink and went in the front of the restaurant. And that's what you know, you told my boss, that's what he fired me for. And like, I was really upset. I was telling my boss, like, they ain't really nothing to fire me for, because I was really upset, frustrated, and I was really like, you know, really, like, I ain't really go off, but like, I was really talking out of frustration. And like, that's what probably made him really, you know, fire me, because he was talking like he was gonna fire me, but I wasn't really fired. But by me talking like I was frustrated, he went ahead and fired me.
Well, when you say your boss, who are you referring to when you said you talked to your boss and he was going to find something else?
Mr. Lamone and Mr. BB.
Well, who was the person who fired you?
Oh, you talking about the boss at the store? Oh, Mr. Tony. His name Mr. Tony.
Okay.
But at the jail, the boss at the jail named, you know, Lamone. Mr. Lamone and Mr. BB.
Okay. Okay, let me ask you this. When you felt like you were not in a good work situation, did you report it to the people at the jail who are over the transitional work program?
Yes, ma'am. Cause like,
Stop talking. Stop talking. Who did you report it to?
you know, Lamone and BB, cause they the main people that gotta give you the job.
Okay. Who is your direct supervisor?
Mr. Lamone and Mr. BB.
At the restaurant or at the prison?
At the prison.
Mr. Russell?
Who's your direct supervisor at the restaurant?
Oh, Mr. Tony.
And he's the person that fired you.
That's what my boss said at the jail. I ain't never talked to my boss at the restaurant. I ain't never talked to my boss at the restaurant. You know, as soon as I got to the jail from the restaurant, my boss told me everything, you know, what he was saying over the phone.
All right, Mr. Austin.
Mr. Austin, after you got fired, did you get a disciplinary write-up?
Yes, ma'am. They said I had a copy, but I don't have it on me right now.
Okay, but did Mr. Lemoyne or Mr. Beebe ever try, before this happened, did they ever try to find another work release situation for you?
No, ma'am. I had asked them about it. Like, can they transfer me to another work release to like the you know, the Quincy or Baton Rouge, and he said they was gonna work on it, but I guess they ain't never got back with me.
There's no other business where you are that hires people from work release? That restaurant the only place that accepts work release inmates?
No, ma'am. You know, I can work anywhere else, but you know, like the place they got me right now, they got me at another jail where like I can't, communicate, with them type of people. You know, they got them type of jobs and in line for people. You know, that's work release eligible. If you work release eligible, and once you get moved to DC3 to the parish jail, you ain't gonna be able to talk to them type of people. Like, the type of jail I'm in, they got me at a disciplinary jail. They got me at a disciplinary jail right now.
All right. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Smith, can you help us any?
I do not, Your Honor. I have no, I'm not at liberty to comment on this.
Sure, okay.
But the only,
Anything else
they
you
only,
want us before we vote?
yeah, they only got me in jail for not going to see my PO within 72 hours, and they had got me say I had went to Texas without permission, and I've been in jail going on 4 months. I've been in jail going on.
I sat on your initial hearing and was willing to give you a chance to let you do the work release because you were very wordy at your first revocation hearing. I'm concerned we gave you the opportunity for work release, which was a break, and then you go and you can't follow the instructions of your employer. So, anything else you want to say to us?
Yes, ma'am. I try work release again. But just a different job.
No, we don't have control of that. So, and neither do you really. So I think we're prepared to vote, Mrs. Jackson.
And then the other type of job that they gave me, the type of
We're
job
gonna
that
be voting, Mr. Austin. We're going to be voting.
Mr. Austin, I hear what you're saying. I do. But in the real world, there are always going to be, situations where you're going to have conflicts or misunderstandings with people that you work with or for. And that's one of the things that you have to learn how to navigate if you're going to be successful in society. I understand what you're saying, but you were discharged because of an aggravated work release. And so my vote is going to be to revoke. You have an expiration date of March of next year, but my vote today is to revoke.
Mr. Rocha.
Mr. Austin, based on you being removed from a board-ordered transitional work program due to a aggravated work offense, I am revoking your supervision.
And Mr. Austin, I also have heard what you're saying. that my vote today, based on your removal from the work release program, is to revoke your parole. Good luck to you, sir. That's the last case we have at Rapides. We're going to sign off at 9:13 a.m. Thanks for accommodating us.
This is the wrong vote.
I'm trying to figure out, like this different set of classes. I'm trying to figure out what we just saw. Why was his attorney there and why did he not say anything? It's like, thank you for, so apparently it wasn't his attorney, but his attorney was serving someone else. Maybe he was just looking to do this guy a favor. I doubt that though. And he didn't say anything. I guess he couldn't say anything, but you would think that oh man, that's just strange to see. Imagine walking in the room and there's this man that you don't recognize and says, "Hi, I'm your attorney." It's like, oh, okay. But then you don't do anything for his client. Now, I don't know what he could have done. We have seen attorneys talk their way out of some pretty difficult situations, but you get the work release and then you can't follow the rules and you get fired and you're asking to get released to a job that you will follow the rules for. And it's just like, at a certain point, you can't even feel bad, really. It's, I don't know what else to say, but it's interesting. He said, "Oh, I spoke to my manager, and I said, can you find me a different, or maybe it was someone at work release. Can you find me a different job?" He said, "Oh, I'll work on it." And then he's like, "I was fired." But yeah, that's what he meant by work on it. It doesn't work that way. It meant he's, it was interesting that Ms. Renatza remembered the hearing, or she has notes on it. But she, it's like, what's the board supposed to do? There's nothing they can do in this case. It is what it is. Okay, but we'll go to another hearing. It's a roach hearing, so buckle up. I have not seen it yet, but we can expect him, I bet, to be a first-time offender, have no write-ups, and have a low risk score. But again, I haven't seen it. Just taking a wild guess.
Lead on the interview. At the end, if you'd like, before we vote, you can make a statement. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Ballard, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 15-year sentence. You were sentenced, excuse me, in Livingston Parish in April of 2010 for molestation of a juvenile. You have a parole eligibility date, which was September 30th, 2018. You don't earn good time, so your full term date is May 25th, 2024. Is all that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Rush.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Ballard.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Doing all right.
Good. Mr. Ballard, you're currently 43 years old, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been incarcerated on this charge?
15 years already.
15 years of 16-year sentence?
Yes, sir.
Actually, you've served about 14 and a half years on that 15-year sentence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's your job at Franklin?
None. I got no job right now.
Okay, what do you do 24 hours a day?
Nothing.
Okay. Are you trustee?
No, sir.
Have you had any disciplinary write-ups in the 14 and a half years of incarceration?
No, sir.
You've not had one write-up in 14 years.
No, sir.
That's outstanding. Tell me about the programs you completed in 14 and a half years of incarceration.
I did reentry. I did Think for a Change, Aim Amendment, and Set Fitness class.
Yeah, and you had Bossier, and you completed both phases. At Bossier, and 2 phases, which encompasses all 4 phases of the sex offender treatment. What did you learn about yourself when you completed the Bossier program on sex offenders?
I learned a lot of things, real lot.
Okay, what did you learn about yourself?
Learn about myself or trying to do a lot more better when I get out.
What are your
Okay.
triggers? What are your triggers?
Well, my true year, go about work, get my life tricked.
As far as sex offense, you are a repeat sex offender. You've been convicted of 3 sex offense. What triggers you to offend against juveniles and other females that would cause you to commit a sex offense?
Drugs, drinking, stuff like that.
Okay, drugs. And when did you start using illegal drugs?
I ain't done the drugs in going 14 half years.
Sir, when did you start using illegal drugs?
Oh, you want to know when I start? Oof, can't remember.
I remember, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I see that you finished the short-term Steve Hall program. So what did you learn about from the Steve Hall program?
What I learned about it, I learned a lot of things. Make my mind good.
What are your
Open up.
triggers with alcohol?
I ain't been drinking since last thing I
What
stopped
are
drinking.
your triggers for alcohol?
Nothing. And it was.
Tell me about your transition plan. Where do you plan to live and where do you plan to work if released?
I think about go live with my brother when I get out.
Do you have any employment lined up?
Huh?
Do you have any employment lined up?
I got SSI. That's my apartment is. I've been on SSI all my life.
You've been SSI all your life. You've never had a full-time job.
No, sir.
Okay. Madam Chairman, that completes my interview.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. How long you been there at Franklin?
Going on 5 months.
5 months. Okay. Is the lieutenant there in the room with you?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Me.
I want to ask him if he has anything to say.
She want to know you got anything you want to say? Nothing.
Okay. Is there a statement you'd like to make to us before we vote?
Not really.
Okay. Well, I think we're ready to vote. Mr. Roche?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Based upon express opposition from the victim's family, law enforcement, the DA's office, the offender is a repeat sex offender. In the proximity of his good time date, my vote is to deny his request.
Mrs. Jackson?
My vote is the same to deny because of the proximity to you good time.
And that's his full-term day. Full-term day. Yeah, which is May 25th of 2024. Mr. Ballard, I'm pleased to hear that you got a lot of stuff out of the programs you've been taking. Particularly the sex offender treatment. I do agree with my colleagues though, based on your criminal history. My vote today is to deny you parole. We wish you luck, sir. Good luck. That concludes our business in Franklin. We're going to sign off at 9:40 a.m.
I wish you luck. You wish that thing luck? Ladies and gentlemen, when you think you have seen it all, you realize that you have not. I can't recognize myself with these glasses. I'm just speechless. Sadly, we don't have anything to share on him. Richard, couldn't find, there's just nothing because all he did was hurt children. 3 times. This is his first felony, but 3 times. This is his 3rd time that he's been caught. And you know that a judge each time didn't even make sure he didn't even give him a felony. Just a slap on the wrist, and he did it again, and a slap on the wrist, and he did it again, and a slap on the wrist. I mean, 15 years is on the high end of the spectrum for Louisiana, but what? This got worse and worse and worse. And yeah, I was right about the no write-ups. And I was starting to doubt myself the way he came into this interview, giggling and laughing and shoulder slumped and giving attitude. I was like, you know what, maybe he does have write-ups. But no, still no write-ups. He did nothing for 15 years. Couldn't even fake an answer. And, he came in, he came into this. I was thinking, like, he knows he's getting out in 6 months anyways. He doesn't want to deal with conditions that they'll give to him. And he doesn't want to deal with maybe getting the parole. And I thought maybe he was just throwing it in their face. But I actually don't know if he was. I think he's just clueless because he looked shocked and disappointed when he was denied. I mean, look at his face when they tell him of his denial. This is not someone who's like, I mean, he's getting SSI. I read the comment sections. I read the comment sections for everything I upload. And by the way, if you ever try to reach me and I don't respond, it's not me ignoring you. It's like a small pet peeve of mine. I have so many YouTubers that I have followed for years and years, and they've never responded to a single one of my comments, and I get offended. And at a certain point, it does become, I don't see them. YouTube only sends me notifications about some of them. I don't know why. One way is to make sure it adds me. That's like the best way to see it. Or the second is to send me an email. I think I respond to every email I get. And if I don't, then send it again because I'm not intentionally ignoring you. But in the comments, I read that people are saying, I've been trying to get SSI for all my life. I've been trying to get, all my life, but I've worked for 30 years and I still can't get SSI. I've had and I can't get SSI, and he's getting SSI. He's never held a job in his entire life. And it's like, how is this possible? This is just a slap in the face to every single one of us. This is a slap in the face to every. He is a menace to society, harming our children, living off the tax dollar in every sense of the word. And some judge and some DA said, you know what, let's only give him 15 years. Why is he not locked up for life? Why? And the DA writes a letter. Well, they don't even write a letter. They get a notification from the parole board. We oppose. Yeah, great. The victim still adamantly opposed. Why don't you get up here, DA, and just, I get there's only 6 months left. Who cares? But you know what? Maybe it does make a difference on behalf of the victim, on behalf of your constituency who you are voted into office to serve and to, I don't know, maybe protect. I get the parole board's hands are tied, and he's still denied, which I love because we could have seen many cases where this. You know what? Let's give him some conditions for 6 months, and maybe they should have, because maybe he would have gotten revoked. Or so. I don't even know if it makes a difference. He's only getting revoked for another few months, so no. It's just like he doesn't even know how much time he served. Oh yeah, I served 15 years. Actually, it's 14 and a half. Your sentence 15 years. Oh, okay. Well, what did you learn? What are your triggers? Nothing. What's your job? I don't have a job. I've been SSI. I've never had a job. No. I mean, I'm so enraged that I'm speechless. This thing is living in our society on our taxpayer dollars. He was caught 3 times, but not even given a felony. This is his first offense, his first felony offense on record. Why? How long do you think it is until he offends again? Huh? And molestation of a juvenile, that's a plea deal he took for 15 years. And I know that it was much worse, but they gave him a plea deal. Now they say they don't want to have the we don't know how old the victim was. We don't know. But at a certain point, and we've seen a judge do this once, and I shared it on the backup channel. We've seen a judge do this. Maybe I'll show it to you again. I think it's worth showing it to you. Let me share with you a segment from Judge Stevens' courtroom of how this case should have been handled. Let me share this with you, and let's ruminate in how a proper judge should handle the sentencing of someone who's committed a third offense.
I have a John Abrams. That you?
Yes.
22-40065 is now called. The state of Texas versus John Michael Abrams, who is present with his attorney, Mr. Dusler, and the state's attorney. Does the defendant waive a formal reading of the indictment and arraignment here?
Yes, sir.
Do we proceed in summary?
Yes, sir.
In summary, this indictment alleges that, are we just going on paragraph 1?
Yes, sir.
I was just confirming that, Judge. If
I
you
mean,
would, I think you need
this
to.
is the third time
Yes,
you've been
sir.
charged with this.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So what's our plan?
Well,
we got
We have an agreement for 10 years, Judge.
Yeah, but
He only
okay,
received on the.
let me ask you
prior-
this,
Yes, sir.
what is he looking at if the whole indictment was pleaded to?
As it would be a second degree because,
You know,
hang on, Judge. It's a second degree based upon count 2. With count 3, you can make an argument that would make him look at habitual,
what,
but the case
why
law.
wouldn't there be certainty about it? I mean, what's the argument about? I mean, if the way it's pleaded, it's a habitual felon. 25 to life.
Yes, sir.
Well, I know the people who put me in here, they don't really appreciate sex offenders who don't properly register.
I
mean,
agree with you.
They don't stand for it.
I agree with your honor, and my agreement that's been offered to Mr. Dusler is 10 years in light of the fact that he only received a 2-year and a 3-year sentence previously. So it's incrementally more. It's not to the degree that your honor is suggesting, but that may be. I feel like 25 is going a little more than what is entire.
Well, the
appropriate for this
legislature didn't think that, but he's
I
looking
don't
at
disagree.
life imprisonment, actually. It's a minimum 25.
Yes, sir.
Where was this original conviction? Out of Harris County?
Yes.
Sexual assault of a child. Um, Anybody want to explain what the consistent problem is? I don't have a consistent problem with they get hit and understand that we're serious. You may not, but you're one of the few on the planet who don't seem to appreciate sex offenders have strict rules they must follow because they failed on the rules. Like you. But not only have you committed an underlying serious crime involving sexual assault of a child, but this is the fourth time, at least, you have been charged with a felony offense regarding sex offenders. I don't begrudge the defense. Y'all doing the best you can, but can anybody explain to me, help me out, why any mercy should be shown under these circumstances?
If I may speak,
Involved, keeping in mind a child was injured for the rest of their life.
I don't know the underlying offense originally
Well, it
because
says what it says.
it was way back in 2002.
Well, it's in the body of the
Yes,
the charge.
it was in 2002 is when the offense originally happened.
Yeah, I'm looking in the,
What
no, the probable cause affidavit is in Harris County involving a 14-year-old child. Sexual assault of a child over a 14-year-old. So, there you
the
go.
since then, what we're looking at are offenses of omission rather than commission. He was originally, the first one occurred just a few months after placing on probation in 2012. It looks like everything was done fine until 2016, some 4 years later, when we had another issue. It's now been 7 years since that. Granted, he's not doing exactly what he's supposed to do, but in view of the fact that he received 2 years
How old are you?
TDC.
How old are you?
46.
At this rate, we'll see him 4 or 5 more times before
Well,
his natural life.
I don't think
At
so.
this rate of consistent misbehavior.
Is the point is he got 2 years the first time, 3
Yep.
the next time. This is, as Mr. Ham pointed out, incrementally a whole lot more than.
And how's that working? How's that deterring?
We're going to find out after a 10-year sentence.
No, it should have stopped after the first one. I don't take that deal. I think a jury in this county would be more appreciative of making the decision as to whether the minimum of 25 or up to life are appropriate under his consistent misbehavior of a case. And this court is not going to stand for being light on sex offenders, especially when you offend on a child. That is it. Next is what?
And that's what I'm talking about, right? There is a judge that is telling the DA no. And could you believe that was the DA? That wasn't his defense attorney who was standing up for him. That wasn't his defense attorney that was pleading the case as to why they should do a plea deal. That was the DA. And Judge Stephen is saying, are you kidding me? You think the constituency that voted me into office, you think that this is what they want? What's he going to do when he gets out in 10 years? And the DA says, we'll find out. We'll find out? You can't make it up. We'll find out? Judge Stevens states it so clearly. Keep in mind that this has changed the rest of a child's life. A 14-year-old child. And the DA says, well, we're only giving him 10 years in light that he received just 2 and 3 years before. And it's like, how is that your argument? Because you gave him just 2 years and then 3 years, give him 10 years because it's so much more than 2 and 3? You're nuts. You know, this is the beauty of having these court proceedings recorded, because we can actually get inside of a courtroom and see who is there trying to protect our children. You would think that you're listening to the defense attorney, not to the one who's supposed to protect us. When the judge says, well, what's going to happen when he gets us? He says, we'll find out. It's madness. And to think that something similar happened in this case, we're going to find out, aren't we? We're going to find out on a taxpayer's dollar nonetheless. You can't make it up. But what was my point? My point is on the third offense, why would you not take it to trial? You can say all you want, but the bottom line is, if he had taken a life, you think they would just have said 15 years because we don't want to put someone on the stand? No, that's just not even something that crosses. Now, I have seen people write in the comment section that it's happened to their loved ones, their children, and that they felt blessed to be given the opportunity to agree on a plea deal. And for that, I respect that, and I don't know what, and I don't know what to say, frankly, and how to even wrap my mind around it. I hear that. But there has to be something in place at the same time for a third-time offender who you can clearly see is going to get out and reoffend, in my opinion. But what did he show in any of this, that would make you think otherwise? But here it is. And if you didn't see it, you might not believe it, right? Here it is.
Second-degree battery by cutting. Tell us what happened. What did you do?
Well, my baby daddy was not supposed to be around me, but he was around me. I'm mad because I didn't want to be with him anymore. And he came, coming by me or whatever, exposing my face, hitting me while I was holding my son at the time. Got my son out the way or whatever. His brother took him, not my child, but brother on the dad's side. And I cut him on his hand, and I flashed on. That's all I remember.
Right. And as part of the process, we do reach out to the victim. We were, I think, unable to locate Mr. Chanot, I believe was his name.
Emotional.
Tell us what, what concerns me is I look at your history, your criminal history, even though you're classified as a second offender. I see in a 2008 arrest for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon by the Orange Police Department. 2015, second-degree cruelty to a juvenile in St. Charles. 2016, aggravated battery with a dangerous weapon in Orleans. What's all that about? All of that.
I just have a anger problem, but
All right. So what have you done about that anger problem?
I've been working a lot. I've been humble. I've been changing a lot lately since I've been down. A lot in my family, they like that side of me that I have been changing and stuff like that.
How long have you been in jail?
3 years and a month.
3 years, you say?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw you were enrolled in Beyond Trauma in May of last year, 2022. You were in, like a month later, you were removed for disciplinary reasons. Why were you removed from that program?
Well, not on my behalf, but the deputies that was working on the ship of Oregon with me, they was having me going to class late, so they had me get out of class. That's what happened.
So they wrote you up?
Huh? Yeah. I don't think I got rolled up. I never got a slip saying I got rolled up or anything like that. I was just not.
Have you had any write-ups in the last 3.5 years? Have you had any write-ups since you've been there?
No, ma'am.
Good. What other classes are you re-enrolled in beyond trauma now?
None at all. I've been writing to get in, but they always tell me I have to wait. So,
So you're not in any class right now?
no, ma'am.
Well, if you are released, I have a lot of concern about your anger issues and your history, criminal history. And without having taken a couple of classes that I believe would benefit you, such as anger management and thinking for change. I mean, I just don't think you're ready yet. Do you?
Yeah, I'm not that same person anymore. I really actually changed a whole lot.
What's your transition plan?
I'm going home. Stay by my sister for a little while, actually. In the process of staying by her, I'm gonna get a job and get my kids and stuff like that. Go to school for like hair and Sandy. That's my motivation. So, I mean,
Do you have a drug problem?
no,
Drug use? Never used drugs?
never in my life.
Drunk alcohol?
Nope, none of that. Mm-mm.
Well, sure.
With the, you had a prior for cruelty to a juvenile, and your 3 children were put in foster care. Are they still in foster care?
No, they with their father.
They all have the same father?
Yes, ma'am.
And is he the one who got cut on his arm?
Yeah.
And how long did he get custody of the children after this, or did he already have custody of the children?
That incident happened in 2014.
What incident happened in 2014?
Like, you say, I thought you were talking about my son, so that's what I say. 2014. That's custody with my kids.
No, when did the cruelty to a juvenile happen?
2014.
And that's when the children were taken from you and placed with their father?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did the cutting take place of their father?
No, that's not the dad. It is. I have 5 kids actually. Matter of fact, I have actually 5 kids.
Well, where are the other 2 children?
My daughter, she's with my cousin, and my son within custody with the state because of my baby daddy. He would not actually do right, like try to get him back, like since I've been locked up. So,
All right, Ms. Harvey, I kind of agree with Ms. Renazzi. You still got some work to do. You've got an extensive history of violence. You had a domestic abuse arrest, the cruelty to juveniles, this charge that you're in here for now. And you say you've changed, but I don't see that you've done anything that would really help change. Talk is cheap. People can say that, but you haven't really taken any programs to give you what you need to learn how to control your anger. So that's all I have.
All right, Mrs. Jones, is there anything you can add?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. We'd like to hear from the DA's office, please, Mr. Myers.
Good morning, Randy Myers, CPA in Jefferson Parish. And also the same things that apparently y'all see. She's got a history of violence, long history of violence, and no anger management programs. I think that's a very important thing for her to take, because I think all of us realize, she's going to get out. When she gets out, we don't need her to be coming back. So I think some good programs would help her to change some of her actions and remain out of jail when she does get out. So we're opposed at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we vote?
Yes, I would like to say I take full responsibility for my action, and I understand and I acknowledge what I done to the victim was wrong. I'm very truly sorry. And today I am taking steps to do better. I just asked for now for a second change and opportunity to pursue to do better. And my remorseful to the victim, I'm very sorry. I wish I would have never done what I done, but I did what I did. And I spoke forgiveness and I'm very sorry.
All right, Ms. Harvey, and you know, for us, it's about staying out of jail.
Yes, I am. That's my plan and that's
Not
my
just getting out of jail, but staying out of jail. So, you know, I already mentioned, I believe you would benefit from anger management, the 100 hours pre-release, thinking for change, and actually even a parenting class if that's available. I believe you have some more work to do.
Yes.
But you can be successful when you do go home, because you will, and it's not that far away. But based on those reasons, my vote today is to deny you parole. Mr. Roach.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. Harvey, based on extensive criminal history of violence, and in light of rehabilitative program, I vote is to deny your request.
Mrs. Jackson.
And Ms. Harvey, my vote is the same. You need to keep working. Hopefully one day you'll be able to reestablish contact with children. You've got to do some hard work between now and then, okay?
Okay.
Good luck to you. That concludes our business at your facility, Ms. Jones. We're going to sign out at 9:28.
Well, wait till you hear what she was locked up for with cruelty to a juvenile. Richard shared this information, and you know, if you hadn't seen what I'm about to share with you, you might think it could be anything. But would you think that it was for breaking a little child, a toddler's leg and arm? Would you? And guess what sentence the DA gave? 5 years probation. 5 years probation. And what do they write at the end? Our office will continue to vigorously prosecute all cases of abuse of minors. What? Are you kidding me? You actually have the nerve to put that at the end of 5 years suspended sentence for breaking a 14-month-old little boy's leg and arm. The arm was found healing, by the way. So the little boy had his arm broken, and when they took it, when her boyfriend took him to the hospital, and they found that the arm was healing. Oh, but don't worry. She was also fined a $100 court cost and has to pay a $60 a month supervision fee. Okay. Accused of fracturing the leg and arm of her then 14-month-old son, she pleaded guilty to 1 count of second degree to a juvenile. 32 withdrew the plea of not guilty and entered the plea. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison, was suspended. 126 days was in jails, which he was given credit for. But she was placed on 5-year probation, and if she violates probation, she'll have to serve her prison sentence. How is it possible? You just say, what world are we living in where you can do that to a little innocent baby and get just a slap on the wrist? She was also ordered the woman to get a high school degree. Oh, man. Good job. The high school degree is really going to fix everything, Judge. And to attend intensive parenting classes. That's also going to fix the problem. Prosecutors handle this case with careful consideration and put the input from the child's father. The district attorney handled this case with, well, we know this wasn't Randy because they list the district attorney here. And he does show up to keep her locked up, which is nice to see too, but this is just crazy. No case is more tragic than one involving parental abuse of children, the DA says. This case is no exception. Harvey was arrested in February of last year when the child's father, who is the primary caregiver, brought the toddler to the emergency room. According to St. Charles Parish spokesman, and this is crazy, even when he's the primary caregiver, she still manages to do this. The child was being treated for a leg fracture when arm fractures that they described as healing were discovered. Following an investigation that included inquiring doctor reports, the sheriff's office moved forward with the arrest and issue warrant for Harvey. The child was removed from the residence. The child's father was adamant that the defendant not receive additional jail time. He requested instead a term of supervised probation that should permit the defendant to receive parenting classes and assist with her reestablishing a relationship with her child. Are you kidding me? Based on this request, Harvey got the longest probation allowed by law and a significant suspended sentence, which you'll have to serve if she violates probation. You like how the DA words it? Based on this request, on the father's request, she got the longest probation allowed by law and a significant suspended sentence. They think we're all a bunch of idiots, but hey, maybe we are. Maybe we are. Maybe we are. If you just say, like, how is it possible? How is it possible? Right? Why do we not protect our children? How is that protecting our children? How is that sentence protecting that little boy? And she ended up back in prison for knifing him. What a shock, huh? What a shock. You harm children, you should get the book thrown at you, not a little slap on the wrist. Am I the only one that's enraged? They don't care. The system doesn't care. We see that over and over and over again. The system does not care. The parole board did what they're supposed to do, right? At least they did their job. The DA showed up, at least he showed up. But can't make it up. And you probably wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it. But there you go.
And then after that, we'll hear from the probation and parole officer. And you can make a statement at the end if you'd like to before we vote on the revocation.
Yes, ma'am.
Get to the right page. Okay. Mr. Tiffith, you're accused of violating the conditions of your parole. You're accused of violating condition number 2. Number 2 states, I will submit a monthly report by the 5th of every month until I complete my supervision. I'll report to my parole officer when ordered to do so. You fail to submit a monthly report or report to your parole officer when ordered to do so because you absconded supervision. How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
With a statement?
I didn't, honestly, I didn't.
I'm just asking you, will you be making a statement in that regard? Yes or no?
Oh, I'm not understanding this.
Well, your pleas are guilty, not guilty, guilty with a statement or not guilty with a statement. You pled not guilty. I'm asking, are you going to have a statement?
I'm gonna just take guilty on everything, miss.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. That's all they want.
Well, let me read. So you just pled not guilty. Are you changing your plea to guilty to violating condition number 2?
Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to violate everything.
Okay. Well, I gotta go through it. Condition number 3, you requested to have your case transferred to Illinois and were allowed to move to Illinois while transfer was pending. The transfer was eventually denied by Illinois and multiple attempts were made to contact you to inform you that you needed to return to Louisiana. You didn't respond to any of the attempts to contact you, nor did you ever voluntarily reach out to probation and parole to find out the status of your case. Ultimately, you were arrested in Illinois due to the fact that the Louisiana Parole Board issued a warrant for your arrest for absconding supervision. How do you plead to violation of condition number 3?
Guilty.
And lastly is regarding your fees. You, in condition number 10, you have failed to pay your monthly supervision fees. You were ordered to pay $63 a month and you have not made a payment since April 7th, 2022. Currently, you're $1,491 in arrears. How do you plead to violating condition number 10?
Guilty.
Okay, sir. So let's just go ahead and hear from the probation and parole officer, Mr. Carpenter. I know you got a busy day. We'd like to hear your statement, sir.
Yes, ma'am. If the offender is willing to plead guilty on that, we support that decision. As far as everything that you read, all the violations, they are correct, and we have nothing further on that.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Yes,
Mr. Tiffin, you pled guilty to all the violations. Is there anything else you'd like to say to us?
Honestly, and all in all, it was just a big misunderstanding. I transferred somewhere. I really don't have no knowledge about the probation and parole stipulations and all that. I was at the address that I was supposed to be at. I was waiting on a letter of a parole officer to pull up to the address, but no one ever showed. I honestly didn't know it was on my behalf that I was supposed to reach back out and try to figure something out. I didn't know. It just was a big misunderstanding. I wasn't in no trouble. That's all I can really say. I didn't really do anything wrong.
Okay. Well, you know, there's a process. You received permission to go to Illinois, but that was rejected twice. And when they reached out,
I have the paper right here. I had permission.
You had permission to go, but you still have to do an interstate compact to formally transfer your provision.
The paperwork, yeah.
So I think that I'm ready to vote. My vote's going to be based on your guilty plea to violating all 3 conditions we discussed. My vote today is to revoke your parole. Mr. Roshan? Yes.
Mr. Tiffin, based on your pleading guilty to conditions number 2, 3, and 10 of your supervision contract, I vote to revoke your supervision.
Mrs. Jackson?
Mr. Tiffin, my vote is the same.
All right, Mr. Tiffin, today your parole's been revoked, sir. Good luck to you.
Good luck to you all. Thank you.
That concludes our business in St. Tammany. Thanks for accommodating us. It's 8:33 a.m.
Thank you, ma'am.
I mean, that was definitely one of the more interesting parole revocation hearings we've seen. It seemed like I don't know what else more to add. I mean, the more you see, the more you realize you haven't seen it all. His parole officer came on to testify, and he's like, "Well, if he's pled guilty, I don't even need to say anything." And I don't know. It seems like he doesn't really understand the system. But in one sense, it's, hey, he is at least taking accountability, but that's not going to work. The parole board's not going to just say, "Oh, well," that's just not how it works. You know, you get out of prison, you're on parole, you got to follow the rules. It's not like there's only so much that one can do. You can't feel bad for someone who just doesn't follow the rules. Man, we'll do another revocation hearing.
Your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. She'll take the lead on the interview. She'll ask you some questions. We'll hear from your mother. And before we turn it over to Mr. Smith, we'll ask you if there's a statement you'd like to make.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You are, Mr. Fox, you're accused of violating the conditions of your parole, specifically condition number 13, which was a special condition. Abide by sex offender contract and have no contact with juveniles, in that it is alleged that you violated condition number 13 in that on July 17, 2023, you were located at a residence with 3 juveniles, ages 5, 9, and 11 months. After completing intake and being instructed numerous times to have no contact with juveniles earlier that day. How do you plead to violating condition number 13?
Not guilty.
Right?
Mrs. Jackson. All right. Good morning, Mr. Fox.
Yes, ma'am.
You were paroled on June 14th, is that correct?
You mean I was released?
Yeah, you were paroled on June 14th of this year.
I was released on the 13th.
Well, okay, we're not gonna quibble over a day, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when did you report to probation and parole for your intake after you were released?
I was released on the 13th. I went to probation and parole on the 14th. They told me to come back up to probation and parole on the 17th.
And did you do that? Did you go back on the 17th?
I went on 17th at 7:30. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what happened when you went on the 17th?
I went in front of Lane Norman. He gave me my paperwork, and he was giving me the conditions of my parole. With the conditions of my parole, I was telling him that I was trying to be around my daughter and stuff like that, and he told me that I couldn't be around any. He told me I couldn't be around any kids first, and I told him I had a daughter. He was like, "Well, sign, get the paperwork from the child's mom, and they'll bring it in front of the board." So I was like, "Okay." I didn't think that.
Okay, can I stop you for a moment?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your approved residence when you were released and you went to probation and parole? You had to give them an approved residence.
Yes, ma'am.
And what residence did you give as your place of contact?
2003 9th Street.
And who lives on 9th Street?
My great grandmother.
And who lives with your great grandmother?
Just me and her.
Okay, so that was where you were scheduled to live.
Yes, ma'am.
But on the did you get arrested or detained on the 17th? What day did you actually get arrested?
I got arrested on the 17th, the same day I went to see him.
Okay, you had gone to done the intake on the 17th.
Yeah.
Conditions going over with you. So where did you go after you left probation and parole?
I went to the sex offender class. I went to sex offender to go report for the registration, the sex offender thing, and I went to a restaurant for seeking a job. And my mom had an accident because she was my ride. Now she stopped at my grandmother's house to change, and that's how I ended up being at my grandmother's house. I was outside waiting for her so I can go to APD.
Okay. Okay, I'm confused. You were going to be living with your great grandmother or your grandmother?
My great grandmother.
Okay. Your mother ended up at your grandmother's.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
why was she? And you were in the car because she was your transportation to
Yes,
go
ma'am.
to probation, parole, go to sex offender registration, and all of that. Correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so, tell me what happened that brought her to your grandmother's house.
She went to my grandmother's house to handle some business there. She wasn't going to be long. So I stayed outside and I talked to my brother, and I got a call from my grandmother saying that my great grandmother saying that my parole officer had stopped by.
Okay. Okay, so who lives at your grandmother's house?
Her, my little brother, her husband, and I think that's it. I'm not so sure because I don't.
How old is your little brother?
My little brother, he's just now making 21.
Okay, so he's an adult.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when your mom stopped at her mom's house, did you get out of the car?
Yeah, I was sitting on the porch. Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever go in the house?
No, ma'am.
You were just waiting for your mom to come out so she could take you to the next place you needed to be.
Yes, ma'am.
And in the meantime, the parole officer had gone to your great grandmother's house to confirm that that was your address.
To be honest,
Okay, but he went to your great grandmother's house.
yeah.
How did he know
Whenever,
at your grandmother's house?
yeah, well, whenever he went to my grandmother's house, my great grandmother's house, my grandmother called me. My great grandmother called me. When she called me, I called him.
I got you. Told him where you were.
Yeah, I
You
told him where I
got
was.
And when he got there, you were sitting on the porch waiting for your mom.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And you've never been in the house.
Never one time been in the house.
And it's your assertion that at that time, you were not aware that there were children in the house.
Yes, ma'am.
How did the parole officer know that there were children in the house?
Well, whenever he pulled up, by this not being my residence, I told him that I didn't give him the right to search the house. He asked to search the house. I ain't give him the right because it wasn't my house. And I didn't know who was in there.
Right.
He still evaded and asked to go into the house. And when he went into the house, he seen the children that were there.
And then you were arrested that same day and then since?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all I have.
All right, we'd like to hear from your mother, Miss Rakisha Fulton Wells. Ma'am, I think you're on mute still.
Yes, ma'am.
Here you go. Go ahead. We'd like to hear from you, please.
On the day that he was released, he went to my grandmother's house, Alma White. That's the 2003 9th Street address. I was called. We went, greeted, welcomed him home. Everything was fine. He told me he had to go to his parole officer that Friday morning. I'm the youngest of the mothers in the family, so I'm the transportation for everyone. I picked him up that morning, took him to probation and parole. He didn't get to see nobody, so they gave him an appointment to come back that Monday. So Monday morning, we got up, got him, and we attempted to get all his business taken care of. I'm incognate from back surgery. Mornings are hard for me because of the incognito. But I got up, did what I could, and went about our day. Took him to probation and parole, sat there. He went in, did whatever he had to do, came back and said he needed letters from the children, from his brothers, about his brother's children. I said, okay, fine. I can get the girls to write the letters because the grandchildren are mostly with me. Their parents work. My youngest son's in college. So I do grandma duties. But this particular day, because I had Sir and I had to do some running around with him, the kids were at my mom's house. During our running around, I had an accident and I was forced to stop to change my undergarments. I went to my mother's house, went in, cleaned up, changed. While I'm in the house, my mom tells me that the probation officer had been to my grandmother's house. Mind you, my grandmother is 98 years old. She lives by herself unless Sir is there. She told Sir that the parole officer had been there. She didn't get to the door in time to answer him that he was seen on the camera. So Sir called the parole officer and told him, look, I'm at my grandma's house with my mama. We trying to do the stuff that you needed me to do. He said, yeah, I'm on my way. Within moments, the man pulled up, got out of his truck, and walked up onto the porch with me and Sir. We would have been moving around before then if he hadn't said he was on his way. When he got out, he greeted us and he said, yeah, I remember you. I came to your house and to prove your address, and was deemed that he couldn't stay with me because I had the grandgirls. I said, yes, sir, I'm the same one, I'm his mother. He said, okay, come show me around. He was speaking to sir at that point. So sir told him, I don't live here. I can't let you in somebody else's house. He said, yeah, come on. The officer opened the door and walked in. No knock, no nothing, just walked in. My mother was sitting on the couch, and it was the day of my 5-year-old's birthday. She was opening her gifts in the middle of the floor. The parole officer stepped in the house, seen the kids, and told her, turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Right, yes, ma'am, and we know what happened after that. Can you wrap it up for us, please, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. On the day in question, we did everything that I thought we could do. If I hadn't had an accident, we would have never been at my mother's house. Sir never went in. He stayed in the car, in the driveway, and on the porch. I tried to explain that to the officer. I even tried to give him the letters that he had requested.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Thank you for being with us this morning. Mr. Fox, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we turn it over to Mr. Smith?
At the end of the day, all I just want to be known is I'm just trying to get back home to my family. That's it. My family leave me, and I'm just trying to get back to my people. That's it.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Smith.
Yes, I'll be extremely brief. I was retained to represent him in other matters. He had an out date of March 22nd. I was friends with his great grandmother, Alma White. She's 98 years old. I said, I think he's coming home then. They didn't release him. I inquired as to why. They said he couldn't live. He had listed his great grandmother's house as where he was going to reside. They said, you can't live there. There's it's within 1,000 feet of, he's a tier 1, mind you. It's within 1,000 feet of children. I filed a motion because I didn't think that was so. We had a hearing. His parole officer at that time came in and agreed, said there was nowhere within 1,000 feet that there were children. So he could live there. When he did go to live with his great grandmother. And then he was picked up 2 days later, or yeah, I think it was 2 days later. And on the instance y'all just heard. But interestingly, he's a tier 1, so that in the past he could be around children as long as he was supervised, if there was an adult there. But during this particular time, for some reason, he had to get letters and things of that nature, which is what they were trying to do. He certainly didn't violate. He didn't have contact with any children, in as much as he never went into the house. They were on the other side of a wall, and I don't know how that would constitute contact. That's why I filed a motion to clarify what the actual terms were.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions?
No.
All right, I think we're ready to vote. Mrs. Jackson.
Mr. Fox, obviously you were trying to do the right thing. The parole officer wouldn't have even have been at your grandmother's house if you hadn't called and informed him. I believe your testimony. I believe your mom. And it's unfortunate that this matter was handled in the way that it was. But my vote today would be do not revoke and return to supervision.
Mr. Roche.
Mr. Fox, do not revoke, return to supervision.
And Mr. Fox, I do agree. That is my vote as well. Do not revoke, return to supervision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a blessed morning.
Thank you.
Man, I gotta tell you, this guy has a long history, rap sheet. Maybe that's what his attorney meant by him being retained for a different matter. But here's the one he's charged on now, 717, for the parole violation. Look at the, these are the, and then the list just goes on and on. 616, 627, 22, 22, 623, illegal carrying of a weapon. You know, it's interesting. Some states, they'll just throw the book at you for that. And it seems in other states, there's not, like Louisiana, they don't seem to take it that harshly. I mean, it's just over and over and over again. Here's a registration offense, 2019. And it just goes on and on. 2018, a lot of battery of an officer. And that can be, I guess, you know, just resisting arrest and they hit you with other things, but who knows? Man, his poor mother, that's all I can really think about, his poor mother. But now what he was originally in for was, it seems, February 17th of 2015, a different grandmother came home and saw him in the house with her granddaughter. They don't say how old she was in this article, but that she was a teenager. And he was 20 years old. So he ran away, but they ended up catching him. Now, that information, what can it tell you? You know, maybe he's not at the typical risk, right? Was she 15? Was she 17? Was she 16? Probably not 17. I mean, but so maybe he's not like the typical offender in that sense. Like, he's not a risk to being around children. It is interesting, though, that the parole officer was at the house, and probably because of his rap sheet, he's kind of extra cautious around him being there. And I think you give the parole officer credit for it, for being extra cautious. But at the same time, you might argue maybe he had a vendetta against him. Should he have been locked up for this, for violating? He told the parole officer he was going to be there. I don't know. This is an interesting one for me, because clearly they were not potential victims, right? But I do like to see them being extra strict rather than extra lenient. But they allowed him back out, and it seems he has a lot on his plate. But you tell me. I know that but I do think this is a different kind of case. Remember, we just saw the attorney earlier. I'm doing these kind of out of order. We initially saw this attorney, and then we had the second case where he then kind of sat in. I didn't think he did an outstanding job either in this case, but whatever he did worked because he was released. Let's go to the next hearing.
Okay. Mr. Davenport, you are classified as a fourth felony offender. You are currently serving a 35-year sentence for aggravated criminal damage to property as a habitual offender. You were sentenced in Caddo Parish in October of 2019. Your parole eligibility date was August 1st of 2021 in accordance with Act 122. You don't earn good time, and you had a full term date April 5th, 2032. Does all that sound correct?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Davenport, your case has been assigned to me, so I'll take the lead on the interview. So how old are you, sir?
61.
61. How long you been in jail?
23 years.
23 years. You were originally sentenced to a life sentence, and that was in 1999, and the 35-year sentence is a result of resentencing in October of 2019. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I noticed in your prior criminal history, as I stated, you're a fourth offender. I see a simple burglary in 1984, 1992, an ag battery. You were revoked on both of those offenses.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about the programs you've been able to take advantage of. You had a hearing back in May of 2022, you were denied at that parole hearing. So tell us, what kind of programs have you been able to do since that hearing?
I had attended living in balance.
Good. When did you finish that?
March 13th,
Of 2022 or this year?
22.
22. So you finished that prior to your last hearing, right? Because your
Yeah.
last hearing was in May. You finished living in balance in March.
Yes. And victim awareness. And March 7th.
Okay.
22.
So it looks like you hadn't been able to take any, or haven't taken any programs rather, since your last parole hearing. What is your job? Do you have a job? I see you have some medical issues. Do you have a job at the prison?
No, not right now. Because of that, I had a stroke.
Okay, I see. You have multiple rather chronic medical conditions, so you're unable to hold a job. What do you do all day?
Well, besides living in balance and victim awareness and 100 hours, just a lot of reading, studying up on that.
Right. So how do you spend your day? Tell us that. Tell us what a day looks like for you.
Well, mostly just staying out of trouble, eating my meals, stuff like that.
Do you belong to any club?
No clubs.
Okay. Well,
and I'm also man of God,
so you go to church services?
Yes.
Good. When was your last write-up? I know when they denied parole the last time, it was because you had a bad, your conduct record was not that good. When was your last write-up? Do you remember?
2021.
Yeah. So you hadn't had one since then. That was a pretty bad one. That was aggravated disobedience, but you hadn't had any since then.
No.
Good. Why do you think that is? Because you had been getting them pretty often, and then you don't have anymore in the last 2 years. Why is that?
Because I've been looking out for myself, not getting in trouble.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm worried about your history of violence. This was a pretty violent crime. The victim in this case, well, tell us what happened. You know what happened? Describe it for us.
Can't really describe it. You talking about on the street?
Yeah, like you're in jail right now.
Oh, right now?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you what I got. Tell me if it's right. You can straighten it up. You drove your vehicle into the residence of Miss Carrie Hill.
Yeah.
And you were trying to hit Carolyn Gilliam with your car as she came out of that residence, which was her mother's residence. Why did you do that?
Carolyn, we was involved. We was
Yeah.
Remember if we married or not, but anyway,
You were mad at her?
yes, she tried to
Sir?
shoot me.
She tried to shoot you?
Yeah,
Do you have a relationship with Carolyn now?
no.
All right, you have, as I'm sure was mentioned to you at your last parole hearing, you've got people that don't want you to get out of jail early. Law enforcement is opposed, the judge is opposed, the district attorney, prosecutor is opposed. Why do you think we should let you out of jail early?
Because I've been here a long time and I didn't hurt nobody. I'm just I'm ready to get out.
Yeah, well, you were trying to hurt somebody.
But I didn't.
All right. Tell us, if you were successful, where would you live and how would you support yourself?
Well, on Tulsa Street in the Martin Luther King area, that's where I'm from. And I plan to live there with my dad.
You gonna live with your father?
Yeah.
How you gonna support yourself?
Because I'm gonna have to get disability because of the stroke I had. And so I can't talk that good.
So your plan is to live with your dad and draw disability. How old's your father?
84.
He still gets around good and all that? He gets around good?
Yeah, but he's losing his eyesight.
Oh, goodness. Okay. All right, let me ask Warden, is there anything you can tell us, Warden Kimball?
No, ma'am, you've pretty much touched on everything. His record speaks for itself. He's been with us since September of 2019. Since his last hearing, he has not had any further RBRs, but you've pretty much touched on everything about the record. That's nothing else to add, Mr. Knox.
Okay, thank you.
When did you have your stroke?
2010 and gold.
Okay.
So it's been a while.
Yes.
Okay. Anything you want to say to us before we vote?
No, ma'am.
All right. I think we're ready to vote, Mr. Davenport. I'll be voting first, and I'm a little worried about you. I don't believe you have a good, solid transition plan in place. I know you said you want to go back to where you came from to live with your dad, who has some medical issues himself. So I'm not sure that's going to work out for you based on the opposition that's been expressed. The fact that I think you need some more programs if you could. My vote today is going to be to deny you parole. Mr. Roshan.
Madam Chairman, my vote is the same reasons.
Mrs. Jackson.
My vote is the same.
Mr. Davenport, we wish you well. Good luck to you, sir.
Okay, so a life sentence, right? In 1999 for damage to property, and it's like you're probably saying, what world do we live in now? I do have records. Thank you to Richard, and he does have a long history of criminality and some not so good things, but still in this case it is quite strange to me. You might even argue that maybe he could have gotten off, but they just didn't care. They wanted to lock him up forever. And you could say, well, how is it possible that he has a parole hearing? And that's because Act 122 said that the Habitual Offender Act, I think it was non-constitutional, and that's why it was reduced, and he's allowed to have a parole hearing. Now, to me, it's clearly okay to parole him. That man has had a stroke. He's no danger to anyone. It is unfortunate, though, that he's being put in a situation with this poor, father, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to be successful. And this is actually one of the cases that I would say, well, this is what the parole board should be involved. The parole project should be involved in. This is a case that the parole project, it should justify why the parole project even exists, because it can at least help someone in need who needs the help. Why the parole project is not involved, it's very possible they just missed it. In my opinion, they want to have every single case that they can. They view these are clients. This is money for them. They want to have him in. It could just be oversight that they didn't have him. We did see a parole hearing once where Kerry Myers was on the Zoom call for another client when someone came on and mentioned the parole project, but the parole board said, well, you're not working with the parole project. And Kerry Myers jumped in and said, we're not working with him, but we'll take him as a client. And they said, okay, great. But anyways, how a jury found, this seemed like a case that he could have gotten away with. I'm starting a little lower in the article because the top of it lists an address. And even though the address is 23 years old, YouTube can say I'm violating their conditions. So I'm just not going to list it. I'm going to play on the safe side. But basically what happened was that he had gotten out of prison a week prior. He then borrowed Caroline's car, a Ford Thunderbird, supposedly to go job hunting, it says. And she was upset because she didn't know that he took her car or wanted it back. So someone called him and said, hey, come by, I need a ride. And in response to the phone call, he came to Hill's home, pulled the car onto the street, perpendicular to the driveway. And the right side of Hill's brick dwelling, the front door of the house is located on the left of the driveway in the middle of the house, which faces LaGuardia Street. The door enters the living room of the house and the adjoining kitchen. A large window is located to the right of the front door. As Davenport pulled up to the house, the three women were standing outside. Caroline ordered Davenport out of the car, but then began to fire the handgun at him. He wasn't making it up that she was trying to shoot him. She literally did start shooting at him. When she stopped firing, the woman immediately went into the house through the front door while Davenport got back into the vehicle. So remember, they called him to show up. They ambush him because he shows up. They pull a gun out, empty it on him while he's out of the car. Charlie Johnson, a next-door neighbor, then saw Davenport get into the car, driving the car up the driveway towards the front door at a high rate of speed. He rammed the car into the brick house in an area slightly to the right of the front door. None of the three women were injured, and then he fled the scene. So there you go. A man who is literally being shot at drove the car into the house. You could find, I think, so many reasons as an attorney to say he panicked. He thought he was going in reverse. Why would anyone in their right mind drive it into a brick wall nonetheless? This wasn't through the doorway. This wasn't, and they did try to take that defense in some way. So, they do try to take somewhat of that defense, but then they say in proof of intent, the state produced evidence of criminal act by Davenport against her. This is what I meant by he wasn't a good guy. So the prior act, this is a prior act, involved the unauthorized entry of her home and the destruction of her personal property and an aggravated battery, which he beat her severely and burned her with a hot iron. One might say, how is that evidence allowed into how is that scenario allowed into evidence, right? A prior act, but the judge allowed it. And I know sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they were using this as proof of intent. And again, I would suspect the difference that he was just shooting at him. He's not a good guy. But here's an example of, see, they didn't care. They were going to throw the book at him. A jury did find him guilty, but the judge made sure to allow every bit of evidence, and then he gave him life. And they could do the same thing for habitual offenders who harm children, but they don't. Sometimes they do, but mostly they don't. Where is it that here's where in support of the argument, Davenport relies upon Caroline's testimony. Davenport testified that as he sought to retreat from the scenes, Caroline reloaded her gun. So she only stopped firing because she was reloading. He believed that he may have been hitting the gas and the brake at the same time, which caused the car to go forward and strike the house. Caroline testified that when Davenport attempted to drive away to evade her gunfire, she believed that the brakes jammed, and instead of going backward, the car went forward, striking the house. I don't know how any of that meant, like brakes jamming. I mean, was it clutch or automatic? I'm guessing it was an automatic. But still, I mean, you would think it'd be pretty easy to argue that he thought it was in reverse. But nonetheless, the jury chose to disregard the testimony, accept the testimony of the witness to this incident, including Johnson, who was neutral, disinterested eyewitness. Johnson testified that after the shooting had stopped and the ladies had entered the house, Davenport backed the car up and pulled into the driveway at a high rate of speed. Okay. So they have a third-party witness. There we go. I'm glad I found this part. That said that he saw him back up and then go forward, striking the house. Johnson also observed Davenport flee the scene. I mean, who does that though? You just got shot at and you're going to run your escape vehicle into the house? It's like, whoa. But clearly no one was thinking. I wonder if she got sentenced or what her sentence was. You'd have to assume she got something. She testified that she saw him back on the car, the road stop, and drive the car high speed towards the house. But, you know, he was a week out of prison. He was a bad guy. Obviously, he should get something, but do you think he should have gotten life? Well, Act 122 was why they changed that, and they gave him a chance. And now he is going to get out, but man, it's going to be tough for everyone. You know, there's no support. And what can you do? What can you do? But here you had it. We've seen a whole bunch of different hearings, revocation hearings, hearings where people had life without the chance of parole. You got my new glasses. As you can see, probably through the glasses, my eyes all acting up. But I'm a little out of it. Maybe you can tell. But that 115-year sentence just has me so enraged. And that was his third act. And you can just say, why would a judge not throw the habitual offender? We've seen habitual offender bills thrown onto people retroactively after a sentence. And I don't understand why a judge wouldn't do that for that case. But they don't really care that much about children. A broken leg, a broken arm, 5-year probation. And they still have the audacity to make a statement that they're protecting their children. That's why we do this, because if you didn't see it, you might not believe it. And with that, I'll let you go.